Thank you all for joining us on India's premier platform for deliberating the discourse around sustainability and climate change. I am Souvroshri Lahiri, a project associate at TERI, and I will be your MC for today's session. Before we start the session, a humble request to all the attendees here to kindly keep their phones on silent mode. Today, we gather here to shed light on a crucial issue that affects not just a few, but all of us: air pollution. It's a global menace infiltrating our cities, endangering lives, and demanding urgent action on both local and international fronts. At the outset now, I would like to welcome on stage our esteemed Director General, Dr. Vibha Dhawan, to deliver the welcome address. Over to you, Murza, ma'am.
Thank you so much, and hearty welcome to all the participants for our thematic track, best practices for air pollution management and mitigation. Well, I'll put it this way, that air pollution is something that more or less we have agreed that we have to live with this problem. It's a huge problem, and believe me, if I look back at my generation, people were migrating to other countries largely to look into opportunities for livelihood opportunities and better jobs and so on. But today, when you talk to those who are migrating to other countries, why are you going there? The answer is we have ample opportunities in India, but is this the kind of air I want to give to my children? And it is something which perhaps year after year, it's increasing. Like if we look at Delhi especially, come November, and it's something now we have to live in this smoke house for next few months. When it rains, the very first thing we look at rain, we don't remember agriculture. We simply say that AQI will come down and we'll have breathable air. You step out of Delhi, and it's immediately that now we are able to breathe. Till few years back, Bombay and many other metros, we thought that because of the ocean, the problem of air pollution is not that big over there. But we have seen in last couple of years that over there also it has become a problem. We are still not correlating the air problem, or when we look at how to mitigate it, we only look at the expense part of it, but we are leaving behind what is the impact on human health. And especially when you have small children at home, you're always worried. Can't you imagine pollution breaks in the schools? Because they say the air pollution levels are very high and therefore we are closing down the schools. But isn't it that those children are still living either inside the four walls of the house, or you are telling them not to step out and play? So what are going to be the implications? Now, one good thing is there, because I'll put it this way, till few years back, we were not even measuring the air quality. There was nothing known as AQI. But today, at least we go for that and we basically look into what is it I can do? Should I put air purifier at home, or what best I can do under these circumstances? And while we say that we know the problem, let's also face it that in India, more than 75% of Indian urban cities, they exceed the National Ambient Air Quality Standard for respirable suspended particulate matter, that is PM10. And primary sources, they range from regular polluting sources like power plants. And of course, the steps taken are that the power plant which was in Delhi, that has been shut down, but maybe it has resulted in some respite, but it's again far from satisfaction. And so one is trying to move them out, industries. And I'm told in Mumbai, there is also one of the fertilizers companies which is putting a lot of pollution inside the city, but then it's still running. So therefore, one needs to look into it. Transport contributes quite a big section. Careful, careful. But then, and the other day, someone from Japan was sitting with me, and that is one country where average per capita car usage had come down drastically. And that is largely because they have invested in trains, the metro trains, and the last mile connectivity, which is lacking in our country. And therefore, we still, if you look at the traffic in Delhi or coming to Delhi in the morning from Gurugram and going there in the evening, it's a nightmare. And you don't know, colleagues, they spend as much as 2.5 hours one way. So look at the productive time that goes. Yes, we do calculate that sometimes, but we still ignore the amount of pollution that the transport sector is creating. And that is where perhaps government also needs to revisit the policies, what kind of investments they should know in mass transportation and so on. And the other problem which still remains is the crop residue burning. And of course, to me, because I'm from biology background, one of the things is that we changed the sowing time for paddy. And earlier it was sometime during April, but because of the water shortage, and you all know we raised the nursery in standing water. So therefore, government had put a ban that you cannot put the nursery before May and June sometime. But the crop needs certain days in the field, and therefore the harvesting of paddy, between harvesting of paddy and sowing of wheat, the window is very short. It's not even a month. So it's about 15 days. And thus for the farmer, the best way is that burn the field, it's ready in one day for the next crop. But then it is that while the crop residue is not a waste, it's a wasted material. You can use it for n number of uses. And we really need to work out that entire value chain, that how you can take it, the crop residue, either for the biofuel industry or for the direct burning in to generate electricity. So it's actually a wealth. And what we are also finding is that today it is the problem of air pollution is not just restricted to metros. It's in the small towns as well. In fact, few days back, I had gone to Mukteshwar, and it was so bad because of the crop residue burning in the morning that you almost became blind on the road. You couldn't see even 1 feet beyond your car. So what is happening also to those communities who are staying in the villages and so on? Now, the good part is, and the national and subnational governments across the country, they have started their fight against air pollution with a sense of urgency and multiple dimensions. In 2019, the center launched the National Clean Energy Action Plan, commonly called NCAP, to tackle the increasing air pollution problem. The plan's report card shows mixed results. Some cities shows decreasing trends in PM concentrations, while many others shows increase in level. And again, that tells us that much remains to be done to bring down the air pollution to permissible levels. Since the launch of NCAP, the Government of India has implemented several strategies to reduce air pollution and has shown significant improvements in non-attainment cities. In this context, a thematic track titled Best Practices for Air Pollution Management and Mitigation, which is being organized, is basically to share learning experience and best practices for air pollution management and control across Indian cities. So what I'm looking forward to, and I'll also must acknowledge the Bloomberg Foundation. They are always there to help us or to launch such programs, and Priya is there. So welcome, Priya and Pooja and all of you to this, and over to you to moderate the session now. Thank you.
Thank you, Vibha ma'am, for your invaluable words. We have a distinguished line of speakers for this session on best practices for air pollution management and mitigation. I would like to now request our esteemed delegates to join us on the dais. Mr. Ashish Tiwari, Secretary DOEFCC, UP, he will be joining us virtually. We have Dr. Anju Goel, Associate Director, TERI. Sri Kumara Swami, Program Director, Clean Air Action, World Resources Institute. Mr. Mohit Beotra, Director, APAG. He'll be joining us virtually. Dr. Sumi Mehta, Vice President, Environmental and Climate Health, Vital Strategies. He'll also be joining us virtually. Professor Sagnik De, Institute Chair Professor, Center for Atmospheric Sciences, IIT Delhi. Ms. Karen Shepherdson, Lead Environmental Specialist, World Bank. This session will be chaired by Ms. Priya Shankar, India Director, Climate and Environment Program, Bloomberg Philanthropies. Ms. Priya Shankar, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much, and a big thank you to Dr. Vibha Dhawan as well, and congratulations to TERI on its anniversary that it's celebrating at this WSTS. I'm delighted to have a really stellar panel here today to focus on what has really been happening on the ground in some Indian cities since the launch of the National Clean Air Program. But also recognizing that city level action can contribute to some extent, but we also need an integrated approach across sort of states and regions and national governments, hearing a bit from the sort of state and regional perspective as well. At Bloomberg Philanthropies, our work on air quality is really founded in the experience of our founder, Mike Bloomberg, former mayor of New York City, and the time he spent there really focusing on air pollution. And in that time, he was able to, through policies such as improving heating in buildings and others, he was able to lead to 70% improvement in sulfur pollution and over 20% improvement in particulate pollution in the city. And in addition to the partnership that we have here, working with the Ministry of Environment, Forest and Climate Change on the National Clean Air Program, with partners such as TERI and WRI and others, we also support work internationally in a number of cities, initially more in Indonesia and Western Europe, but now also expanding some of that work to Africa and Latin America as well, because we think that cities have a lot to learn from each other's experiences and can really be powerful drivers of action. With that, I would like to request Mr. Tiwari to share with us some of the experiences. I know UP has been playing a really strong and proactive role in trying to address air pollution, and has also been seeing some improvements and early successes. So would be good to hear from you on what you've been doing in UP and also the impacts that it's been having, and what we might be able to learn from that for other states and cities. Over to you, Mr. Tiwari.
Thank you, Priya. Thank you so much. And it's my utter pleasure to share the panel with esteemed panelists and all the participants. Really, we are very happy to share with you that there are Can I continue? Yeah, am I audible?
Yes, sir.
Am I audible? Can I continue? There is some problem. Am I audible? Okay, so I'll continue. Okay. So, thank you, Priya. As you said that there are some early results in UP state, I would like to share that first. And actually, the National Clean Air Program started in 2017, and it largely followed city to city approach. But when we did with our technical partners, IIT Kanpur, the source apportionment study for Taj Trapezium Zone in Agra and for Lucknow also by TERI, we found that about 40 to 50% pollution is coming out. I am talking this way back in 2018. So the city level interventions were started, but definitely at that point of time, we had a clear understanding that we cannot actually improve the air quality in the city in exposure in the city habitations unless we work on micro air sheds and larger air sheds in Indo-Gangetic Plain. National Clean Air Program, NCAP funds and 15 Finance Commission funds, they are directed towards interventions within the municipal limits. So, but there are equally challenging areas just outside the municipal limits. And if we expand our area of operation to district level, then we will have to follow a scientific model, which is called a micro airshed. And since Dr. Sagnik Day and other eminent scientists are also there, they will also throw some light on it, the importance of micro airsheds and regional level interventions. So we understood it in 2018, and along with city level works, we started also bit expanding our area of operation outside the city boundaries to micro airsheds. And slowly we started developing with technical support of World Bank. I'm very happy that Karen Shepardson is sitting there with technical support of World Bank. UP took a lead to develop a airshed based action plan for the state. And I'm happy to share that that action plan has been prepared and it's being now implemented also. And on side by side, we are also developing a very large scale UP Clean Air Management project, which addresses the critical gaps in the airshed strategy, implementation of airshed strategy. We all understand that the amount, the kind of financial resources we need is not sufficient at this point of time for air pollution, because air pollution is a very cross-cutting issue, whether it is development of infrastructure, peripheral roads, metros, rapid bus transit system, or developing city as a non-motorized transport system, or any kind of transit-oriented development. So air pollution really attracts a lot of financial resources. We tried to map out the financial resources for some of the cities, and also with the World Bank UP Clean Air Management Program, we have also mapped convergence of various schemes which can be leveraged for air pollution actions. So we feel that the resource availability is a big challenge. So that there arises the need for prioritizing the actions. We need to understand that which are the low-hanging fruits and cost-effective actions to the government and to the public also. So we need, on the basis of strategic knowledge and science, we need to find out that which intervention is going to give you maximum delta reduction in a particular unit cost. So that, I think, scientific knowledge is necessary at the policy planning level. So there has to be a very active science and policy dialogue, which we have started in in the state of Uttar Pradesh. That was one thing. Second thing, which is very important, is like governance and coordination. Like air pollution, if you work at the state level or central level, there are directly or indirectly about 17, 18 agencies and ministries are involved. So we feel that what we have done at a state level, that synergies among the targets of various schemes to the targets of National Clean Air Program. We all know that NCAP has got a revised target of 40% reduction in PM10 by 25-26. So all other schemes which are very, very critical for air pollution control, whether it is developing metros, rapid transit systems, or Swachh Bharat mission or smart city, etc., all those schemes targets must converge and must lead to the target of reduction of PM10 and PM2.5. That is the bigger challenge which we have tried to address at the state level. Third very important thing would be like understanding the capacities to implement, like whatever actions are ongoing. I will always, because we are working with TERI to develop audit system for mechanical road sweeping, like whatever actions are ongoing, whether it is a construction and demolition waste management, whether it is the mechanical road sweeping, whether it is you can say dust control on construction sites, we really need to make our ongoing actions very, very effective and delivering the results. So this would attract like investments, little investment, but developing SOPs and developing such protocols, those who lead to better governance so far as the ongoing schemes are concerned. So I have cited one example that we have seen and we have measured the kind of efficacy of mechanical road sweeping operations and whether actually the dust is being lifted and disposed properly or not, so that it does not come back to the road again and the road are cleaned after doing that operation. So there is an audit system, and we all know that there are very high-end infrastructure in all smart cities, integrated command and control centers. So the capacity utilization of those ICCCs is really need to be leveraged. And we studied along with APAG and TERI, the Integrated Command Control Center of Lucknow, 2 years back. We found that the capacity which is being utilized is only 30 to 40%. So 70-80% is still to be utilized, and all ICCC across smart cities can be utilized in a better way, leveraged for air pollution control. I will cite two examples. One is integration of a mobile app for identification of dispersed sources with integrated command and control center. It is being done. Mohit is sitting here. The team APAG and TERI has done it for Lucknow and it has yielded results. Lucknow is one of the high achieving cities so far as the PM10 reduction is concerned. Lucknow is among those cities who has already achieved NCAP targets before the decided year of 25-26. They have already reduced 40%. And second is the Agra experiment, which I shared with WRI. Shri Kumar is sitting there. The Agra, there is no problem so far as the industries are concerned, because all industries have transformed into PNG based industries. But Agra had earlier the problem of dust, and secondly, the polluting vehicles. So a smart city platform, command and control center platform, had a very good automatic number plate recognition software, well integrated, but that was not used. And our divisional commissioner Agra, Mr. Amit Gupta, leveraged that software for doing some kind of an enforcement, virtual enforcement against 10-15 years polluting vehicles. And that had resulted very good results, and all polluting vehicles, diesel vehicles beyond 10 years of age and all petrol vehicles beyond 15 years of age, they have practically reduced flying of those vehicles with the help of ICCC software to zero in Agra city. And you all would be happy to know that Agra has been recognized at India level under Swachh Vayu Sarvekshan as one of the top performing cities along with Indore. So these are some best practices. I would not take much of a time. I would conclude by showing one slide, just the achievements. Can you share the presentation?
Do we have this? Yeah, thank you.
Yeah. I hope my presentation is visible. Okay, so next, please. Next, yes, back. So this you see in UP with all these like 40% our 40% reduction in PM10 with respect to 2017-18 base year has been achieved by Varanasi. Varanasi has reduced around 60% of PM10. Firozabad 57%, Muradabad 48%, Bareilly 47%, Agra 42%, and Lucknow 41%. These are the cities which have already achieved NCAP targets. And the success is a story which I was telling in last 10 minutes, 10, 12 minutes. And some of the cities are near to achieve. I think we are quite hopeful that before 25-26, these cities, namely Gorakhpur, Ghaziabad, and Raebareli, they will also achieve the target. So this is kind of a results which we are getting in UP, and now we have started working on an airshed approach, and we are quite hopeful that in very near future by 25-26, we would not add more non-attainment cities to our list. Rather, we would decrease number of non-attainment cities by making these cities attainment. Our target is to make these cities attainment. But lastly, I would say that air pollution is a very complex problem, and it's at times it's meteorology driven also. So we really need to keep patience and integrate all the efforts into one to complement each other. Like I would also thank the role of civil society in the state of Uttar Pradesh, like APAG is working, all good organizations with good intent. They are working in UP, WRI, APAG, TERI, and so many other organizations are working. And we believe in working in a larger, within a larger plan. So our role is to prepare a comprehensive plan for air pollution control for the state of Uttar Pradesh. And government is also working, and wherever we find some critical gaps, we would take help of all organizations who are willing to work in Lucknow. And I am very much thankful to all philanthropies also to have shown their interest to work in UP. And I'm quite hopeful that UP politically always leads our country. And our vision is that in air pollution space also, UP will lead our country. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Mr. Tiwari, for your leadership as well that you've shown on this issue in bringing all these partners together and driving action in the state. So we really appreciate everything that you are doing. A few key themes that I emerged from what you said that I think have a lot of relevance for other states and cities that I heard coming out from the very, very impressive achievements. I think one around the importance of coordination between science and policy, and for policy to be informed by scientific evidence. The second, the kind of importance of coordination and collaboration along a sort of integrated plan across government departments, but then also working outside government with civil society and other partners, because we need everyone to work together to be able to address this really big challenge. And then the third, I think also very interesting to hear about the importance of being able to integrate with other missions and other activities and not viewing air quality in just an isolated way. So whether it's the smart cities or the Swachh Bharat or other initiatives, and then also about being able to audit and have citizen awareness around the actions being taken. So I think that all of those points have a lot of relevance for other cities and states working on these issues as well. Thank you. I would like to move on to Anju. I know, Anju, you've been doing some work in UP, but also in Maharashtra on the ground, working with cities on piloting certain practices and seeing their effectiveness. Could you share a little bit with us about what you've learned?
Thank you, Priya. Good morning, everyone. I'm really excited to share the on-ground pilot demonstrations that we have conducted under the Clean Air project in India. And the project is being supported by Swiss Agency for Development and Cooperation. To identify the key sectors where the pilots and where the action needs to be happen, we conducted source apportionment studies. And here I'm showing the results of the source apportionment studies for the three cities, Lucknow, Pune, and Nasik. And on the basis of the source apportionment studies, we found that road dust is one of the major contributor in almost all of the cities, followed by transport, industries, and there are the smaller contributors such as a hotel and the restaurants and the other sector, which primarily include, municipal solid waste burning. These are the smaller sectors if we look at the overall city scale average. But if we talk about the exposure, normally these things happen in the highly populated areas such as the commercial areas where the exposure to the human population is really high because of these sources. We have conducted a series of on-ground pilot demonstration in order to show how governance on managing these sources can be improved and what could be, already existing solutions and what is the best way to implement those solutions in these sectors. So the first pilot that we conducted, and Mr. Tiwari has also mentioned about it, we have developed India's first independent mechanical road sweeping audit module. Based on the discussions with the different stakeholders, what we found that under the funds received from the 15th Finance Commission and the National Clean Air Program, a lot of these state pollution control boards and the municipalities, they've heavily invested in the mechanized road sweepers. But what they were not sure about the on-ground efficacy of these machines. And based on our previous experience with the Eastern Delhi Municipal Corporation and the Southern Delhi Municipal Corporation, we found that, if the audit can be conducted for these machines on a regular basis, that can really improve their efficiency. And based on our experience, it can improve their efficiency almost by 25% per shift. So here we have developed an independent module which can actually do desk-based audits and can generate a performance-based report for this mechanized road sweeper and can, facilitate the municipal corporations to take actions and to make payments as per the performance of the mechanized road sweepers. The second pilot that we conducted was on the municipal solid waste burning, which is one of the most common issues you will see almost in all the Indian cities. So based on the inventories that we developed for the city of Lucknow, we identified the hotspots for the waste burning, municipal solid waste burning. And further, on the basis of the on-ground surveys, we identified the critical garbage burning sites. In total, 32 such locations were being identified. And in collaboration with APAG, we have installed cameras, developed SOPs for these sites, and the feed is being integrated with the Integrated Command and Control Center in Lucknow in order to facilitate the regulatory bodies to do virtual monitoring, the better monitoring, and to better manage these hotspots in order to reduce exposure and mitigate air pollution. The third pilot that we have conducted was a retrofitment of two-wheelers with the electric drive. So almost 20% of the pollution, PM 2.5 pollution in Pune is being contributed by transport sector. If we further divide this pollution, so out of this 17%, the 21.3% of this 17% is being contributed by two-wheelers alone. Further, if we go into the two-wheelers, the older ones, they are more polluting. Around 10 years old within the two-wheeler sector contribute to 38% of the two-wheeler emissions, and the 17-plus-year-old two-wheelers contribute around 18% of the total two-wheeler emissions. Further, one thing needs to be noted here. These older vehicles are normally not used for the larger trips. So normally their trip length is very short in order to provide end-to-end and mile connectivity. So here we have collaborated. This pilot is being done in collaboration with ARAI, and we have collaborated with the Domino's, which is a pizza delivery joint, and we converted their 5 motorcycles with an electric drive along with a swappable battery system, so that they don't end up wasting time in charging the batteries. And it has shown successful results, and it shows that these sort of retrofitments can be possible, especially for the vehicles which are used for the shorter trips. The fourth pilot that is being conducted was the conversion of a coal tandoors to the gas-based tandoors. Hotels and the restaurant and the coal uses in the tandoor is one of the major source of a pollution, which increasingly increase the exposure to the human population, especially in the commercial locations. If we talk about average consumption of coal in tandoor, so it's around 30 to 80 kgs per day per tandoor, depending upon the size of the establishment. Further, on the basis of our estimates, around 265 tons of the PM10 and 137 tons of the PM2.5 emissions annually were contributed by coal consumption in tandoors alone in the Kanpur Nagar district. Further, to convert these tandoors to the gas-based tandoors, we have done manufacturer analysis, we have done user perspective analysis, we have done stakeholder consultations. And based on the stakeholder consultations, but we found that users are willing to shift to the gas-based tandoor, though they were apprehensive whether the technology is available or not. And also there were huge concerns about how the gas-based tandoors can be used to cook a food without compromising with the quality and the taste of the food, which is the USP of these restaurants. So in order to overcome those challenges, we tried to contact with the manufacturers and looked into the different options for the possibility. And there we get to know that it's not only that one needs to purchase a new gas-based tandoor, rather a retrofitment of the conventional tandoor is also possible at a very reasonable prices. And also we developed capacity building videos by visiting restaurants in Delhi, which are actually using gas-based tandoor to cook all the varieties which are being cooked by different restaurant owners in Lucknow, in order to capacitate them, in order to bring their confidence that yes, they can shift from coal-based tandoor to the gas-based tandoor, which is cost efficient for them also, and which is environmental friendly as well. So the key lessons that we have learned from all these pilots is that to improve air quality, solutions need to be backed by the scientific assessments such as the source apportionment studies. Further, efficient monitoring of the sources is very important to ensure compliance and improve efficiency of the air pollution controls. Solutions do exist. We do not need to reinvent the wheel all the time, but we need to see what is there, what can be better fit. It's like solving a puzzle, and onboarding of the stakeholders is really important for the successful implementation. Thank you.
Thank you, Anju, for that quite wide variety of examples from a different number of cities. I think some really kind of interesting on-ground work there that has potential for other cities as well, and the lessons you drew out around consulting with stakeholders and drawing on science. Again, similar themes we see running through here. I'd like to now turn to Shri, where I know we've been working with WRI to support some work in Surat, and also now WRI has also been working with some other Indian cities on these issues. Keen to hear from you on what can be learned from what you've been seeing on the ground.
Yeah, great. Thanks, Priya, and thanks to TERI team, everyone here. I think we here going to talk a little bit more detail about this one sector. I'm going to talk, though we are also trying to work on a few other sectors as well. So I think this is something which is key in terms of how this air pollution is forcing us to rethink, a particular sector, right? So we know since last few years, there's been this construction ban has become a kind of a regular discussion, right? So during the peak time. So I think somewhat this is this is sort of we are it is asking us to do this transition, right? So this problem is enormous, right? Construction dust is an enormous problem, probably one of the least under discussed, and it has a many discussions also came through. Road dust was one of the major contributors. Is also construction has a major role in contributing to the road dust as well. So probably, I mean, we all know, right? I mean, another, when we say 2047, 2050, we are going to almost double our urban areas, and huge amount of construction is already going on, and it is going to happen. And we are doing that in a technology of construction which has been quite in a way that it is very dust emitting, right? And how are we going to really think about this in a way that it is how to uh, clean this approach right now, right? This variety of any construction site, there are variety of activities like cutting, hammering, drilling, and all of these activities, numerous activities across various parts of the site, and all of them are causing dust. And how we are going to even think about measuring this and trying to take some mitigation measures, and who is going to take that effort, who is going to bear the cost, and who is what will happen, how do we build a consensus between these divergent stakeholders. See, the construction is the industry is the next to agriculture. This is the biggest contributor to GDP, right? I mean, it has a huge we have nearly more than 10 crore jobs related to it, and so on. So there is a anything we cannot affect the construction sector. It's too important for us. So we will have to really think about proactively think about a transition which is going to be in a way that it is good for the construction industry and it's good for the environment, right? So this is the central thing which we're trying to also find out. Just a little bit on this. We'll also try to see how Surat is trying to do. This is a story of Surat. Surat did this great cleaner action plan. TERI also is a major part of this, and of this, and this set a platform for sector-based action. So we have this great privilege of working with Surat in trying to help them in frame this and clean construction is a very mitigation. Waste burning mitigation is another major area. We've done this ground surveys, and we've been able to really pinpoint where burning is happening, how much is burning is happening, and what we can do about it. A whole lot of capacity building and with the supervisors and the government officials. This overall buy-in is coming very well, and now there is a lot of communication in the public domain also to reduce this. And then the road dust is another area. Really understanding which are the hotspots, where action need to be taken, how do we really deploy the cleaning and methods, what is the source, and what is the chemical content, and how do we really think about solving those sources, and so on. And then industry is the other sector also. We are helping Surat. So this is all just a little bit dwelling deeper into the construction dust. So Surat is one of the very it has been a fast developing city for quite some time. There's a lot of construction activities, especially both inside the city and the peripheries, but peripheries even more lot. I mean, like any other Indian city. So now and based on our research and also working with Surat, we came up with a handbook for clean construction, and the city administration launched it. And then this was also developed through a process of engaging with CREDAI and other important groups who are in the construction sector. And there was a sort of an anonymous sort of a buy-in from all the stakeholders. That's very, very interesting to see that they've been very proactive. And we also played the little bit of the thing that they were able to pioneer. They want to pioneer, and the Surat's that entrepreneurial attitude of pioneering new areas has also helped this a lot. And we came up with this idea of this pilot in one of the site, and we worked with the municipal corporation. The commissioner himself came to launch this the pilot. And what we did over a period of time is that it is actually creating a proof of concept that you can actually reduce construction dust by doing very simple doable measures which every builder can do in the country, right? So we set up this site, and we worked with the builder to come up with the mitigation measures, to implement mitigation measures through over a period of as the building is being built at various stages of building. And then we were also monitoring the air quality and its impact, and the impact of the mitigation measures. So we were able to do this before, after, throughout the season, to know what is the impact of the mitigation measures. We studied the whole wind pattern and located the monitors to see how the difference is. So somewhat like this is a regular one. So you will see from the downward side, after the construction activity, there's a very clear there is a clear impact because of the construction activity. And then we started doing mitigation measures and see the importance, how that is impacting several types of measures. And it is all detailed available in the handbook and the material. And then so things like water sprinkling of excavation, removing of road dust, and ensuring that even the internal movement of the within the site is also being ensure that the dust doesn't come out of it, and then putting covers and creating all around, and creating this the site engineers to working with them to realize the importance of doing such things, and managing tire washing of the trucks which are entering and exiting, and sprinkling of water to in the immediate surroundings, and so on. So we could really see the impact in terms of PM 2.5 and PM 10 from the you can see how it is above the permissible limits. And then because of the mitigation measures, we could see the impact of this. You could see that because of the construction activity, there is around a 35% increase in PM 2.5. And when we do the mitigation measures, out of that 35%, we could reduce 79% could be impacted by doing these mitigation measures. So there's quite a high percentage of possibility of reducing. And similarly, reduced impact of 82% of the increase also could be mitigated. So based on this is also the administration also got very enthused with this, and they came up with a idea that how to take it to more wider the construction industry people. So we came up with a more simpler language of using a manual. Clean construction manual was launched. Surat became the first city to prepare and launch this clean construction manual, which is directly also in the local languages, which is directly useful for the site engineers, also people who are everyone involved in the industry. So manual comes looks like this, and it's a very simple SOP kind of things, do's, don'ts, what to do in a site, what are the series of steps you can take, and at various stages of construction, and so on. It also similarly, we have also used this kind of an understanding to discuss with other cities to come up with SOPs of what can be done. So we've been able to discuss and inform this kind of approach in number of other cities as well. Mumbai is one great example. So now while doing all of this, we are doing this capacity building, engaging with engineers and architects and everybody. At the same time, there is also a gap. We see a sort of a serious gap. Even if they want to do, those technologies are not available for them. For instance, the typical technologies of cutting, drilling, or even the way we put scaffolding and the covering of the site, all these have limitations. The current material, the technologies which are available, they have their own limitations in really stopping the dust coming out of the site. So this is a very key gap. So we are trying to see how we can enable some of these things to emerge from the construction industry. So these are some of the ideas we are also thinking of. What mechanical equipment, what kind of covers, what kind of ground treatment on ground covers, or collecting and understanding data, and dust suppressing ideas, and also personal protection equipment for the workers. So we are trying to really understand what are the solutions across the country which are available, but it is not yet being on mainstreamed into a construction industry that can really reduce this dust. So this is somewhat a contribution to this technology transition which we are really talking about, this clean construction transition which we are talking about. So we are in the process. Soon we will be coming up with some of the way forward on this.
Shri, I'm gonna just ask you to wrap up
Yes, I'm
fairly
just
soon because
just the last one.
Yeah.
So I just want to summarize our process, what we have tried through. There's a lot of trial and error. We have all this research coming up, a toolkit, and then coming up with a pilot and building partnerships, consensus building towards that, and then measuring the impact and use that measured impact to create a kind of a scaling approach in the interest among the stakeholders. And then now we are trying to see that how these regulations, Surat has already come up with the regulations notified for the builders, and along with that also creating this enabling environment through capacity building and also technology availability. So with that, I stop. Now, this is also part of, we are scaling this. The interesting part, we're very excited to say this is part of our Akash program, Accelerator for Cleaner Actions. We're working with 10 cities across the country, supported by Open Philanthropy, Bloomberg Philanthropies, and also Cleaner Fund. We're working with 10 cities. Now, in the 10 cities, now we are really scaling this idea of clean construction. We're trying to see that if we can take this idea to be somewhat achieved in all the cities. Hope that this will see the way forward. Yeah. Thanks, Sales.
Thank you so much, Shri. And yes, also very excited about the scaling of this and other areas of work that you're doing across a number of different cities now, building on the early experiences in Surat and other places. I would like to move on and invite Mohit, who I think we have online, who has been working on some of these issues in Bihar and UP on the ground pilots and best practices and tools for helping cities manage some of these sources. So great if you could share about your experiences in Bihar, Mohit.
Thanks so much, Priya. Sorry I can't be there, but it's better I'm not there because that could be infectious. It'll end up making everyone unwell. Okay, very quickly, I'm just going to go a few slides to just tell people what the program is. This is on dispersed sources management. I hope you can see my video, my screen.
Yes.
Okay, so it's on dispersed sources.
Oh, Mohit, you're on mute. I don't know if it's your end or our end.
No, it put me on mute and now it's not.
Yes, you're back. You're back.
Yeah, sorry, here it is. So this program focuses basically on pollution from dust and garbage. Just a few examples: removal of malba and garbage from public land, road repair to prevent road dust, greening of barren spaces. These are the kind of issues the program looks at. The program is a technology-enabled three-step process, and this is important so that people understand what this program is. Issues are identified by surveyors who are specially trained. They go on the road and they actually identify places where they spot things like garbage lying or malba, etc. They use an app, and here is where thank you, Bloomberg, for helping us create the dashboard. These issues automatically result in a job ticket, and the issue is allocated to an official in the urban local body who is mandated to then fix the problem. Once the person fixes the problem, he or she actually has to upload a photograph of the resolved job, and that's how the ticket is closed. And all of this is run through a very robust review and monitoring program. I'll just show you some examples from Patna, Muzaffarpur, Gaya, which is where we are working in Bihar. You can see on the left, there is a photograph of a pavement, which is all, well, unpaved. And you can see on the right, it's been paved. Now, this is from Dargah Road in thing. So the dashboard allows us to track exactly each job ticket, where it was, what happened, when was it raised, etc. Here is another example from Patna, potholes. Potholes, we don't realize every time a vehicle goes over them, they're massive dust. Here is an example of a pothole having been repaired. This is from Muzaffarpur, which is, we work in all three non-attainment cities of Bihar. So Muzaffarpur is one of the non-attainment cities. You can see unpaved road has been paved, so a dust source has theoretically been reduced. Open dumping of Malba, which is very big in all Indian cities. Shri was talking about construction waste. People dump it, becomes a dust source. You can see it's been cleaned. And here is one from Muzaffarpur about open dumping of garbage. Now, just to give you a sense of the scale of the project in Bihar itself, so far across the three cities, about 37,500 such instances have been identified by our teams, and about 31,000 of these have been resolved by the municipal corporation, road construction department, building construction department, which is about 83% of issues are resolved. And you can see that the dashboard, which is at the heart of this program, because it allows us to go to the municipal commissioner, etc., and show them actual data. You can see it's got the scale of it is that in Bihar, the dashboard has about 319 users, which means there are 319 government officials from across Patna, Muzaffarpur, Gaya, who are actively involved in addressing these problems. Now, when it comes to, so this is the experience in Bihar, but when you talk about the broader impact of this program, I think what's great is that today the program, which actually started in Delhi, not Bihar, is actually running across 13 cities in multiple states. So in Bihar, we're in Patna, Muzaffarpur, Gaya. In Delhi, just to give you a sense of scale, in Delhi, the number of issues identified is about 185,000. So in Bihar, it's about 35,000. In Delhi, it's 185,000 because it's an older program. In Uttar Pradesh, Mr. Tiwari also referred to our work in Lucknow, which is along with TERI. But we're also now working in Prayagraj, Varanasi, Mathura, Agra, Ghaziabad, and Noida. And in Haryana, we're working in Gurugram, and hopefully in Faridabad, we should launch literally, in the next 3 days. I think the big learning from here for us here in terms of impact is that because we were able to demonstrate that this program has some legs, it's been easier to sell it across multiple cities. The great news is that in Uttar Pradesh, we've just been asked to launch it across all 17 non-attainment cities. So there's another 11 cities that we need to go to, which is great news. We're also trying to see how to take it to other states. That's one dimension of impact, that it's being accepted by city after city. The other very important dimension, Professor Sagnik Dey is sitting on your panel. Sagnik's team in IIT Delhi are actually running an impact assessment study of this program. The idea being to be able to disaggregate what this program directly, how it impacts air pollution directly. The results are extremely compelling. Hopefully by the 31st of March, Professor Dey's team will, provide a final report, and we'll actually be able to put a number saying this is the degree to which this program actually impacts air pollution. So very simply, I've kept it short on purpose. The dispersed sources program focuses on dust and garbage. Started from one city, has now gone across 13, and is going to go to multiple cities in UP. We're hoping to take it across multiple other states. The process is now kind of, thing. Bloomberg support was invaluable in creating the dashboard. And hopefully with Professor Sagnik Dey, we'll be able to actually put a number and actually say this is the impact it actually has on air pollution. That's it from my side. Thank you very much. I wanted to keep it short.
Thank you so much, Mohit, also for keeping it short, but for showing this incredible scaling and replication of good practice and good models, starting out in one city and now being used across so many others. And fantastic to see some of the images from Bihar and the concrete improvements on the ground that this tool has led to. So thank you for your efforts. I think maybe since you mentioned Sagnik, I might move on to Professor Dey and ask him, because he's been working on some local air quality management tools, and to talk about how that's working and how cities are using those.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, I think, can you display my presentation? Okay,
sorry,
I think
maybe I've mixed up the order. We can go back to Sumi. I just thought with two virtual speakers, it might be good to have an in-person in the middle, but if it's easier to not that, I'll go back to Sumi if that's better. I don't know if it's easy for you to switch the slides. If not, let's reverse and stick to and keep the flow going. Sorry, Sumi,
Okay.
and sorry, Professor Day.
Okay, I can come back.
Yeah. Sumi, we have your slides up, so I'm going to go to you instead.
Sure.
Sumi's at Vital Strategies, which has been a close partner of ours on our work that we've been supporting in Jakarta, but also has a lot of experience in other cities and on analysis and what's being done internationally. So, Sumi, grateful if you could share and talk to us about that.
Sure, wonderful. Thank you very much to TERI and the organizers for this kind invitation. If you could put the slides up for me, that would be great. I don't see them on my end somehow.
We just had them up a minute ago, and then I think they switched to you on screen.
Can you put the slides? Presentation.
Yeah, we've got your slides now.
Okay, great. If there's a way, it's lovely to see you, Priya, but if there's a way that I can also see the slides from here, that would be really helpful. Thank you. Now I can see them. Okay, so if you could just advance to the next slide. Really interesting to hear all of the amazing progress that's being made, very creative work that's underway from the different Indian cities. And I wanted to highlight some of this work now slightly differently oriented. Of course, I would be remiss coming from a global health organization if I didn't just remind everyone of the fact that, of course, what we know, even globally, that the air pollution related illness and death are not equally distributed. And of course, this is true not just at the global level, but as we know, it's also true at the city level when we're thinking about differences in exposure and health impacts within cities as well. Next slide, please. And of course, the challenge that we see is that we still have, whether it's at the global level or even within, more finer spatial resolution, much less data from reference grade monitors in the places where we see that the burden of disease is going to be the greatest. Next slide. So one of the things that we're thinking about is, of course, we know that it's simply not practical to think about strengthening the air quality monitoring everywhere. And we know that we also have more than enough data to be able to act. And so we've been really working on trying to promote a phased approach to strengthening air quality management. And so I'm going to give you a couple of examples today from some of this work, but just wanted to emphasize that as we think about this comprehensive approach of how we can really accelerate progress on clean air at the city level, we're really thinking about how we can think about innovations and actions that are either focused on ambient air monitoring, getting better data on emissions and leading sources of pollution, also being able to have a better sense of data availability, access, and use, and not just for those technical or policy-minded individuals, but for public consumption and civil society as well. And finally, thinking about the types of effective coordination mechanisms that are really needed to advance action. Next slide. So, as I mentioned, this really comes down to meeting cities where they are with respect to the current level of data and capacity. And what we really want to emphasize is depending on the type of data that are available, we really want to think about what should be prioritized. And this is just an example from the air quality monitoring space. If you have absolutely no air quality data that are routinely available in a city, it doesn't really make sense to prioritize air quality forecasting as the first thing that you would like to do, right? So we're really trying to say, okay, depending on the type of data that you have already, how can we really try to strengthen the system in a way that will really focus in on making the best of the data available, being able to inform actions that can be taken already, but also strengthening the data in such a way that you can really prioritize the increasing knowledge as well as the ability to monitor and evaluate progress towards improvements in air quality. Next slide. And so this is really something which will, of course, involve an integrated approach where you think about really how you can integrate all of the different types of air quality and source data that may be available at larger scale and then also increasingly at the local level scale as well. Next slide. So the other thing is we're thinking about this, and I'm going to give some specific examples in a moment, is how we can then use these data to better communicate risk and impacts, and also use this to prioritize the most impactful solutions. And as we're doing this, one of the things that I really wanted to emphasize in the examples that I'm giving is how important it is. Of course, we all know that air quality is a public health issue. We're all worried about this, but the examples that I'm about to share are really showing you how much more quickly we can really accelerate the progress towards clean air when we actually involve the health sector in the work that we're trying to do. So we need to do more than just saying, look, we know this is a public health issue, but really think about specific ways in which the health sector can have a role to play in advancing our efforts collectively. Next slide. So one of the things that's really important to emphasize is that when we're thinking about this from a health perspective, in addition to thinking about the national ambient air quality standards, we have to also think about some consideration of the WHO health-based guidelines and how those can also play a role to kind of inspire people to act. And what we can see here is that for several countries, India is certainly not an outlier here. You know, we have standards that far exceed WHO's health-based standards, but at the same time, we know that in reality, we have a long way to go even towards achieving some of the interim targets. And so we really have to continue to make incremental progress, because we know that any incremental progress in improving air will also improve public health. Next slide. So there's some really exciting work that that is underway and ongoing, which has been supported by USAID through both the Clean Air Catalyst program and the Cleaner Air, Better Health project. And in these cases, they're nice examples of how ASHAs and other frontline health workers have been engaged to really be trained to communicate about air quality and its impact, to be able to guide people on how to reduce exposures to air pollution within their communities. And this is work that has been piloted. It's being done in close collaboration with NCDC, and we're hoping that we'll also see this scale up as we have more and more community health officers and then district officers trained to be able to also train ASHAs within their areas. Next slide. And this is not just work that's being done in India. I wanted to show a quick video which just shows how impactful you can be when you have this collaboration with the health sector and better use of data to communicate to the public. So if you can just play, it's just like a 43-second video that gives an example of the work that's underway in Jakarta. Oh, can you go back and play the video? I think you just have to click on this. Huh?
I am not sure, Sumi. I hope we can, but I don't know how well the internet and things are working. So
okay.
If it doesn't come up in a second, maybe we'll just suggest moving on.
Okay,
yeah,
and so
lingering over it. So let's move on.
Okay, and but just to let people know, I mean, in Jakarta, the Indonesian Medical Students Association has actually been trained to understand better about air quality and its impacts, and they're actually then using the data from the local air quality, local sensor network in the city to be able to communicate to the public about the air quality. Next slide. And there are other examples of this that you can see, lots from several cities around the world. If you have a look, you can just take this QR code. This will give you example from 6 cities around the world where you can see really how the efforts on health sector engagement can improve things. And I'm just going to highlight a specific example then from Jakarta. Next slide. Where they've been using health impacts data to prioritize clean air action. You can see a picture of Jakarta here, and this is work that's being done in partnership with the Jakarta's Environment Agency and the provincial government of DKI Jakarta as well. Next slide. And basically what's been done here is to use the local data on air quality and impacts to really be able to inform, you know, for every dollar that can be invested in reducing emissions, how much benefit will you get from the public health perspective in return? And so through this analysis, we were actually able to show that every year there are over 10,000 deaths occurring in Jakarta as a result of air pollution. And as you can see, around 7,000 adverse health outcomes in young children, with substantial economic burden exceeding close to $3 billion a year. Next slide. And the city really also looked carefully at this and was able to look at the leading potential solutions that were part of its clean air and climate strategies to really then identify and hone in on the fact that of all of the different strategies that that were under consideration, really it was this focus on enforcement of regular vehicular emissions testing, which would provide maximum health benefits. And so with these data in mind, when they were looking at the suite of options that were available, they said, okay, this is the solution that we would like to then focus in on and prioritize as we're thinking about improving public health benefits. Next slide.
And Sumi, I'm going to also ask you to wrap up fairly soon as well. I don't know if this is your last slide, but just being mindful of time. Thank you.
Yes, it is the last slide. And so just to say that, this is just highlighting the examples from Jakarta. There are also examples from several cities around the world, all with different levels of data, different levels of capacity, but all with real commitment and involvement from the health side to be able to really, try to kind of advance efforts and accelerate efforts there as well. So you're welcome to have a look at these when you have a chance. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Sumi, and thank you for also reminding us that it's a lot of health that's at the kind of heart of this discussion, and improving, air pollution and air quality is not only about the environment, but also about human health and quality of life. With that, I'd like to pass over to Professor Day to talk to us about some of the tools that he's been developing and how they're being used, or what potential they have to be used by policymakers.
Yeah, thank you. So this is basically based on our current work that we are doing in Kolkata with EDF, and also what Mohit mentioned, like you have been working with his team in Delhi. So I'll be very brief actually. But I want to start with this message that, be it a regional or local plan, to really ensure success of the plan and to understand the efficacy of any measures that we are taking, it relies heavily on having a very adequate hybrid monitoring approach, where we draw upon the strengths of not just the CAQMS, which provide most robust database, but also look into the satellites, which provide a better regional context, and also use the strengths of the sensors that provide hyperlocal informations. The reason I'm raising this is because even if you take Delhi for as an example, which has the best monitoring network in the country with 40 monitors, still there are places where actually we have no informations, and air pollution level varies very strongly. So I will demonstrate, some of the work that we have been doing, mostly from the data perspective, focusing on, whether we know how effective some of these measures are, whether we can track the local peaks, and basically, how these data are used. In Kolkata, we just started the work, so we really do not have much to add, but I just want to mention that in Kolkata, we put together this network, which you can see on the map, which is anchored around two major CAQMS in consultation with the West Bengal Pollution Control Board. One important thing is that when you are using sensors for hyperlocal monitoring, calibration is very, very important. And EDF also, is working hand in hand with us. And what I'm showing here is the two plot. The top one is for the winter season, November 16 to December 31. The bottom one is for the summer, March 28 to April 27. The bar in orange is basically the CAQMS around which this network was deployed. And what you are noticing here in Kolkata is that there are large heterogeneity spatially within a small part of the city, particularly in winter compared to summer. In summer, if you see all these different sensors as well as the CAQMS around which the sensors are deployed shows more or less similar value. And this is very interesting because this is quite in opposite of what we found in Delhi. In Delhi, if you look into the data itself, you will see that the spatial heterogeneity is much more in summer rather than winter. And the reason is that if there is a very large regional impact on the local air quality, you will get this homogenization. So then what happens is that the local source contribution becomes less significant and things start to look very homogenized because there is a very large regional impact. Because you have to keep in mind that air quality at any location has three components. You have a regional background, then you have regional transport, and on top of that, you have these local sources. And this is what we are noticing. And then it means that in Kolkata, if you try to reduce or address the local sources in summer, actually, rather than in winter, there will be an differential impacts. I will come to Delhi because this is where actually we have some data, and many times what we started working is to very simple thing like this kind of solutions are adopted by municipalities. This is like the smoke guns. The question is that how effective are smoke guns? So we have the network, and again I'm saying that all the data are calibrated. So the top panel shows that whenever the smoke gun crosses, you see this dip, which I'm showing in the top panel. Now 5 days, you see every time the smoke guns doing this kind of water sprinkling, you get a dip in the PM 2.5. However, we should not jump and say that this is happening because of the smoke gun. Two reasons. One is that there is also a natural variation because as the day progresses, pollution level changes because of the local meteorology. Number two is also is that even after it goes down, you see that within 2 to 3 hours, again, the pollution field picks up. And it means that there is also a source strength. And what we did is that we looked into all of these aspects, and to cut the story short, what we found is that overall effect of this kind of water sprinkling is a reduction in Delhi PM 2.5 values by around 9%. Now the question comes is that, yes, I mean, there is a 9% reduction because we were taking this kind of measures, but is it really cost effective? One can obviously ask the question. There is a cost involved. Other important point is that we found that the effect is not visible beyond 200-300 meters. So it means that when you are doing this kind of water sprinkling on a road, air quality beyond 300 meters does not really improve significantly. So it means that probably you need to do this much more in a more elaborative way if you have to really, get a regional scale impact or at least in a neighborhood scale impact. And then again, this thing. The other important point, like road paving, again, some data from Ashram, 3 sensors. But the whole point again is that, this is the time when in Delhi we are transitioning. So you have to take care of how the seasonality is impacting and everything. When you do all of these things and try to discern what is the effect of just the road paving, whether it has really improved air quality at that particular spot, the answer is yes. You can see that around 32% reduction. But again, because we have these different sensors, one is just at the roadside, one is around, I think, how much, 300 meter away, and then another is 600 to 800 meter away, almost a kilometer away. What we found is that the effect of this road paving is not reflected in the data or the sensor, which is at a distance of close to a kilometer. That means, again, the effect of that road paving is only within a periphery of around 600 to 700 meter. But it also tells you that, yes, at that particular spot, there is a positive impact. Also keep in mind, if you do not use hyperlocal monitoring, and if your CAQMS is 2 kilometers away, it will never catch this kind of impact. So this is the work that we have been doing with Mohit. He mentioned like in Rohini, Jahangir, Puri, Karol Bagh, again hyperlocal monitoring. And so here actually what I'm showing here is a concept called peak factor. So basically we asked this, I estimate about this regional background, regional transport and local sources. So looked into the 5th percentile value. We have a series of data. So the 5th percentile value means that is as low as you can go in that region or that particular locality. And we tracked how the 5th percentile value changes with the overall values and all. And then we did mathematical calculations and all. And eventually, the long story short is that peak factor is a qualitative term which tells you in qualitative way what is the local source contributions. So if there is a reduction over time in peak factor, it means that the local contributions on a relative scale is lower. And if you can see in Jahangir, Puri, Rohini and Karol Bagh, so Mohit's team every day used to tell us that, okay, today this problem is resolved. In this week, we have resolved 60 problems. In another week, we have resolved a certain number of problems. He mentioned 1 lakh or something. We actually could get that wherever major problems are resolved, there is a dip in peak factor. It clearly tells that, yes, there is a local impact. And eventually, if I tell you what we got based on the data till November, we are still continuingly processing the data. In October and November, I can say that, without these local interventions, PM 2.5 would have been further 5 to 6% higher. So just imagine that if the value is 300, it could go even further without these local interventions. And it is not just from the sensors. The lone CAQMS in Jahangirpuri as well as Rohini and Karolbagh also shows very similar trend. So this can tell you actually that this is working. The last point I want to mention is that when you have this kind of data, hyperlocal monitoring anchored intelligently around CAQMS, and when you bring also satellite data and other important predictor variables, you can sort of come up with these maps where you can track now air quality at municipal ward level. And this is one example for Delhi. You can see the black dots are where the current ground monitors are. As I said, there are gaps, but because you have now all these different data sources, they can be combined and you can have ward by ward level information. So we are working with WBPCB to come up with similar kind of dashboard for Kolkata. And in fact, what the PCB has suggested that they will now track air quality at municipal ward level. They will try to link with their day-to-day action plan and see if the air pollution is really reducing in any ward where they are taking actions. So finally, my last slide, that what lessons we have learned for all these activities and are still learning. First point, as I mentioned, that hyperlocal monitoring is really critical for doing all of these things. I have given some examples, but beyond these applications, you need such monitoring when you talk about exposure. You need such monitoring when you try to understand the angle of environmental injustice, because there are vulnerable groups, pollution level varies. When you move away from major sources, there is also a potentially large market for these sensors. So there is an economic angle to it. And eventually also there is a huge opportunity to use this kind of technology to promote clean practice, show what is happening, and even nudge behavioral changes. However, we must keep in mind that as the Indian ecosystem is evolving towards such kind of hybrid approach, we must take cautions in making sure that the data is robust. And any network, because today there are many players in this field, so the network should be interoperable. And most importantly, because there are instances where people have not taken caution and displayed the raw data, it creates actually a hesitation in the minds of the policymakers. So as of now, the sensor data is not wholeheartedly accepted, but science showed that the data could be very valuable if properly and intelligently used. And I think there is a tremendous opportunity for the entire Indian ecosystem to really work hard together to ensure that it is done in the right way. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Professor Day. And I know it was pointed out before that people couldn't hear me because, is that better now? Can everyone hear me? Okay, good. For highlighting the importance of data and monitoring, as well as the new innovative technologies and methods through small sensors and satellite data that are emerging. We had earlier supported a pilot in Mumbai with the Maharashtra State Pollution Control Board, and with research done by IIT Kanpur that I think had found around 85% or over 85% efficacy against a lot of the reference monitors of some of the small sensors. So definitely a lot of potential there to move to this hybrid area. And it's really fantastic to see the ways in which you're using that to assess impacts of actions in Delhi. I'd like to move on now to Karen and ask her to share with us. We've been talking a lot about cities, but we know that it's not only cities that we will need. Often sort of air pollution moves outside city boundaries, moves outside state boundaries, moves outside country boundaries even. So some of the approaches in governance and the innovations and best practices around that for how we can tackle air pollution.
Great, thanks. Can you hear me? Okay. Yeah, I'm really happy to be here with so many people that we're working with in India already. And it's great to come at the end because we're about the how do you scale it up and wrap it all up into a bigger program. So I'm going to speak about just two parts. One are some of the lessons that we've pulled together about airsheds. When I started working in India in 2019, people were working only at the city level, and now we have really evolved into full consensus, I think, about the airshed, and that the time now is to move to this larger scale. In addition, it doesn't mean that you stop doing anything at the local level by any means, but it means that you wrap it up. And we've seen in countries around the world that when they move to the airshed level, that's when they really could pull it all together. I'm also going to talk about, we've talked about bringing the science and the policy together, and just a quick illustrations of how. So we in the bank, my colleagues have done a lot of this work, so I'm just representing them and their good work. They've taken a look at federated countries in particular, because India's got this federated structure. And we created, actually, from analyzing a lot of case studies, what is a good framework of core attributes with our governance people that look at this. And this is based on the actual practices from these group of countries, and the typology of the things that need to be thought about in airshed management. So the framework, the vertical horizontal cooperation, the committed executive, and this nested planning. How do you connect from the city up to the region? So all of the big trends there that all of these countries have done is that they formally designated airsheds. They made planning mandatory, and they implemented some structures around that. They nested, followed formal procedures that they set in place linked with compliance of different parts of the system. And then they connected the planning process with scientific research data. Today, we have moved to a very what we call precision air quality management. There's a lot more information that you can connect all of the dots, and you can pull it down quicker by applying these tools. So again, just came up with some quick to-do list here, for India: delineating the airsheds, embedding the airshed management planning into all of the plans, thinking about it from the city, thinking about it from the state, and even from the region. So we in the World Bank, we're not only working in India, but we're working across the airshed. So for the Indo-Gangetic Himalayan foothills, we are working across 4 countries now: Pakistan, Bangladesh, Nepal, and India. Setting up the regional and the state, for example, because states are so large here, networks on the scientific air quality management planning. So that capacity side and the need to link the knowledge. Mainstreaming the air quality, we heard Mr. Tiwari talk about that. We're working in Uttar Pradesh a lot with him on talking to all the different sectors, and how do you embed this into those sectors, but not do the work of those sectors. You just bring in the incremental air quality work to the sectors and have them own it. Then bringing in the guidelines for cost effectiveness and the tools for cost effectiveness planning, setting up this kind of transparency in web and information sharing tools, and then the funding, bringing in the resources. And actually the tools will help you find out where the resources are needed. And there's certain things, great practices here in India we're seeing, starting with budget tagging. And I hear Uttar Pradesh is going to start some green budget tagging now. And so we can have air quality tagged onto the green. And then in Haryana, they have a sustainable development budget, and we can tag the air quality into that. So second part of this is, so on the tools for the scientific side. So we've already been working in India here over the last 4 years with a group of a bunch of scientists in all the states on applying these tools. So one, delineating the airshed. We've been using what we call a kind of a gold standard model, the GAINS model that is run by the IASA, and there's a number of those countries that we looked at, and Europe, not even being a country, that entire region uses the GAINS model. China uses the GAINS model. There's So this gives you the tools, so then you can take a look at, okay, for your own space and country, what might be your airsheds, and then going forward. Next step, looking at the jurisdictions, in this case, states in urban territories. And the tool allows you to look at the sources, source by source, and you can tell how much are coming from within the state, so impacting the state, but they're coming from another state. They're coming from outside of the neighboring states. It's coming actually from other countries. So you can see from the modeling through this tool, where are all the emissions coming. Then the next big issue was, especially for India, we need to look at primary emissions and secondary emissions. And we have to understand them both, because the secondary emissions are the ones that travel across the airshed the most. And so that understanding, and the tool helps you understand that too. The gray bar portion here is the secondary emissions, and all of the Indo-Gangetic Plain states, for example, are generating some secondary emissions themselves, but they're also receiving a lot of secondary emissions from other states as well. So this is the emissions from ammonia mixing with SOx and NOx higher in the atmosphere and spreading across the airshed. So then the tool lets you look at what does it look like sector by sector across the area. Certain topics are very focused on cities. Other topics are really widespread. Again, can be related to the primary, secondary factors that we were just talking about, but this also the situation in terms of what's happening on the ground with the sources varies across the airshed. Another step the tool allows you to do, and so we've applied this now in Uttar Pradesh. This is an example from Bihar. So Bihar is ready to apply this into developing a program as well. So you can also, you look at where the tool allows you to see based on the data that you have inputted, what are the actions that policies in place are already, this is the link with policy, where are the policies already activated, where is there potential to bring in more control policies, and where are there emissions that more work is needed. And there's a lot of data and information behind this. We also look at the cost effectiveness. So this is a kind of a cost effectiveness curve, but each individual state can look at, and you can even look at what are the measures along that curve, and you want to be down on the bottom and do the cheapest things quick that are going to give you the highest emission reductions first. But we also can compare cooperation across the airshed and the benefit of working with others, because a state can, for example, through the model we learned, can only get so far, and a city can only get so far. So if you're not working across the airshed, whereas it also will help you understand the cost, that you're going to save a lot of money too by cooperation, that this is also a smart policy. So this is finally just to end. So we're just trying to share this tool. It gives you this kind of information too, where you can see across, and this is across the entire Indo-Gangetic Himalayan foothills airshed, what we call each of those as separate jurisdictions. And you can see that in the red, if those jurisdictions act alone, they can only get so far. They can't. And that bar they're trying to get to is the World Health Organization Tier 1 standard of 35 micrograms. And there's actually no state here in India that could get there alone. If there's improvements that are taken across the region, then many of the states can actually get there. And then there's some additional measures that will still be required to bring Delhi and a few others down into that standard. So you get very important information about how to move forward from the policy front, from all of this technical, scientific knowledge and information. So thanks. I know
Thank you so much, Karen. And thank you for that reminder that through kind of collaboration and states working with other states and cities, working with cities and countries, working with other countries even, there's a lot further we can advance. We're so delighted to have Dr. Gargav here, who's leading the National Clean Air Program at the Ministry of Environment. Dr. Gargav, we've been hearing a lot about action from cities and states on the ground from UP, Bihar, Gujarat, Delhi, Maharashtra, cities in different parts of the country. It would be wonderful if you could join us to wrap up our discussions with a national perspective and how you think really a few years into NCAP, how things are looking in a sort of holistic national way. So thank you so much for joining us. Please come up, Dr. Gargav.
Thank you very much. Sorry for delay. In fact, I was looking at Karen's presentation, which spoke about IGP related air quality issues. This morning, we had a meeting with the World Bank, the Vice President of South Asia region. And one of the agenda items was on air quality cooperation, particularly a regional cooperation for IGP states of India, and also Bangladesh and Punjab province of Pakistan. So that's why I couldn't come in the morning and missed most of the presentations today. Now coming to NCAP, the regional planning and the local planning, which is the theme for the discussion today. You all are aware NCAP, personally I feel, is very well structured, very well designed program, follows an integrated approach. There are convergence happening. They are planning at all levels. At national level, we have policy interventions. She mentioned about secondary particles, and an essential idea of power plants moving to more restricted norms or sulfur dioxide now being introduced for the first time is to address secondary inorganic particles, which contributes significantly to the particulate matter problem. So there are policy interventions at the national level. Then there are state action plans. All the 23 or 24 states which are covered on NCAP, they have state-specific plans, and there are city-specific plans. The point I'm trying to say is that all the plans are in place. You have all these plans, and these are continuously improving plans. It's a dynamic process. Cities are going for source apportionment studies to pinpoint the sources which are to be dealt on priorities, and then accordingly refine, improve upon their plans. There are convergence happening of different schemes, different programs of various central ministries and also state departments. Swachh Bharat mission, for example, is putting huge resources in handling waste management. There is an EPR regime which has been introduced by the Ministry of Environment, Forestry and Climate Change. I keep talking about EPR in plastic waste management, which showed the way to handle the waste effectively and also bring in circularity to conserve the resources. The EPR framework, on one hand, mandates the producer who are putting the plastic into the market or the brand owners or the importers, and then mandating them to ensure that the waste that gets generated from this plastic is recycled and reprocessed in a scientific manner. It also provides a framework for the entire ecosystem from generation to recycling. There is mandatory requirement on part of the producers to recycle some of the plastic and also use recycled plastic material, replacing a part of virgin plastic that they have been using so far. The entire framework, the entire arrangement is very meticulously, seamlessly monitored through a portal. The targets for the waste management is generated through the portal. The entire recycling also gets captured. It is sort of reconfirmed or validated through GST portal interlinkage. So there is complete close of the loop. Now, similar waste management is also happening all across. We have introduced now waste tire, and these two essentially are major air polluting problems as well. The plastic that gets burned either in the solid waste or otherwise. Similarly, waste tire also gets burned in unorganized industrial sectors. So I think this waste management also has played a very important role. So the limited point that I'm trying to say is that there is a lot of focus on national level policies, which will have impact on our air quality management. Coming to IGP, as I mentioned, there are state-specific plans, but there is also an IGP-related plan. A very detailed scientific study was done by CPCB with help of Professor Sagnik is here. Dr. Mukesh Sharma was, from IIT Kanpur. He was involved, and we had done a detailed analysis with specific recommendations in terms of the key areas, the hotspots districts. There are 22 or 23 hotspot districts where we felt that the priorities could be focused on actions. Then there are sector-specific recommendations. The key sectors which are contributing to this airshed is also identified. There are requirements given for technology upgradation, especially for MSMEs. So the plans are in place. Now, what's important is all these 7 or 8 states in IGP to move together. Otherwise, the problem is if one state takes action and others do not, match the pace, there is every likelihood that because of contribution of other states, you don't see the result that you expect, and then put blame on either the planning or implementation, and that also sort of demoralizes the entire effort. So this IGP plan, the most critical to my mind is that all of them will have to work together. The plan is in place. Technology upgradation has to happen all across. For example, brick kiln sector has to work, move ahead. Then all the brick kiln industries in the IGP should move together in one direction. Coming to the local planning, while we have city plans which are being implemented, there are different stages. There are also micro plans. So within city also there are hotspot plans. You have developmental activities to address those hotspot related issues. At the same time, there is also enforcement related. A lot of traffic congestion or day-to-day management of polluting activities is very, very critical. Now, this provides this kind of framework of the regional or national clean air program provides an opportunity for cross-learning. We were there in the Madhya Pradesh, Bhopal, 2 weeks back, a discussion with municipalities. Indore, we were told, was moving ahead with an idea of bringing in construction demolition related guidelines into their municipal bylaws. So when that happens, it becomes easier for them to act on ground. Otherwise, national level guidelines following at the ground level becomes difficult. So a lot of examples are coming across from various cities. I heard there was a presentation from Surat as well. Surat also has done a lot of good work for construction, demolition, waste management. So all this learning is happening across the cities, and we are moving ahead. And I'm happy to share that out of 131, close to 90 cities have started showing declining trend. But we need to keep our pace and then work in a very, very cohesive manner. Another point that I thought I should share here is I was looking at CPCB data, and in IGP there are about close to 140 cities which are being monitored, and 50 of these cities meet PM 2.5 national norms, essentially indicating that while PM 2.5 may not be that big problem as compared to PM 10, which largely exceeds almost all the towns and cities. So dust related issues will have to be focused more, and of course PM 2.5 final fraction, a lot of activities that are happening. So I think I'll stop here. If there are any other questions on this, we'll address. But the bottom line is that plans are in place. We need to expedite our actions. We need to learn from each other. And how do we fast track? How do we innovate to fast track the actions? That's the key. Thank you for this opportunity. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Dr. Gargav, and thank you to all our panelists and the TERI team and Anju for hosting us, and also to all of you for being here. I think we've learned a lot about what's happening on the ground, some early signs of progress being made, but a lot more to be done. So thank you all for your efforts and everything you're doing to address this really significant challenge that has such implications for quality of life, economic development, human health, and environment, really at the heart of the sustainable development issue that this summit is about. Thank you.
Thank you all. I would like to extend my heartfelt thanks to all the respected speakers and everyone who joined for today's session for such a fruitful discussion. Special thanks to Ms. Priya Shankar for her concluding remarks and her moderation. May I now request Dr. Anju Goel to present the panel with a token of appreciation from TERI for their valuable time and insights today. First, we have Dr. Gargav. Next, Shri Kumar Swami. Professor Sagnik De.